I adopted a lowly bastard son and raised him with painstaking care. To accompany him in his studies, I strained my eyes until they failed. To treat his illnesses, I worked myself to exhaustion. As I lay dying, he stood by my bedside, hand in hand with a courtesan, coldly declaring, once she dies of illness, everything in the Marquis's mansion will be ours. I passed away in bitter resentment, only to be reborn back to the day I first adopted him. This time, ignoring his hopeful gaze, I took the boy by his side. Yet he knelt in the rain, asking me with unwillingness, "Mother, why did you abandon me?" When I opened my eyes, a line of adolescent boys stood before me. The steward urged earnestly, "These are either the Marquis's children with his concubine or the orphan sons of several uncles who passed away young. The Marquis suggests you choose one to raise as your own." The Marquis the steward referred to was none other than Jiang Feng, Marquis of Yongning. My birthright was exceptionally noble. My father was General Jin Yuan, my mother the Grand Princess. Marrying Jiang Feng, a marquis with only a hereditary title, was truly a downgrade. Not to mention that Jiang Feng already had children with several concubines before I entered the household. But as a woman, I carried an undeniable weakness. I had been frail since childhood and was unable to bear children. Thus, marrying Jiang Feng wasn't entirely unfavorable, since he already had children with his concubines. And I, though unable to conceive, adored children. Jiang Feng proposed that I adopt one to raise as my own, making him the legitimate heir of the Marquis's household. This presented an extraordinary opportunity. A lowly illegitimate son could leap to become royal kin. "Madam," the steward suggested, "young Master Roan would be perfect. He's bright, obedient, and utterly well-behaved." I studied the boy before me. His fair, handsome face and dimpled smile were undeniably endearing. Yet a chill ran through me. In my previous life, it was Jiang Rong I had adopted, to ensure he excelled in the imperial examinations. I studied with him night after night, burning the midnight oil until my own eyes nearly failed. His constitution was frail, weakened from birth. I took him to countless doctors and healers until his health finally improved, only for me to collapse from exhaustion. What did Jiang Rong do while I languished in bed? Having achieved fame and fortune, he arrived at my bedside holding the hand of a courtesan. His gaze filled with profound loathing. He declared I was the person he hated most in this life. "Because of you, I was torn from my birth mother. When I was by your side, you relentlessly pushed me to strive and study. I never had a single day of true happiness. You Mei and I were soulmates. She even bore my child. When I brought her home, you ordered her driven away, tearing us apart." The courtesan Yu Mei, now nestled in Jiang Rong's embrace, wept softly, her tears like pear blossoms. Jiang Rong stroked her hair. "Fear not. That demoness won't live long. Once she's gone, everything in the Marquis's mansion will be ours. You shall be the mistress of the house, with absolute authority." With that, Jiang Rong swept out with Lin Yang. As they left, Yu Mei turned back and flashed me a triumphant, mocking grin. My breath caught in my throat, and I died right there on the bed. The past remains vivid before my eyes. Now, reborn into this life, I will never again raise a thankless wretch. So, my gaze swept indifferently over Jiang Rong before pointing to a youth in the corner. "You. Raise your head. Let me see you." The youth lifted his face, then quickly lowered it again. He had eyes like a young wolf, stubborn yet clear. I recognized him. His name was Jiang Chen, orphaned young. He'd always been considered a wild child in this Marquis's household. In my past life, he was notorious as the troublemaker in the academy, clashing with Jiang Rong on multiple occasions. Back then, I always sided with Jiang Rong, scolding Jiang Chen for his brutish manners. He never defended himself, just kept his head down like he does now. What became of him later? He seemed to have enlisted in the Northern Desert Army. Even during my illness, when Jiang Rong forbade anyone in the mansion from visiting me, he rushed back from the Northern Desert camp and brought me restorative medicine. This thought stirred something within me. I pointed at Jiang Chen. Come here. From today onward, you are my child. Understand? Before my words had fully left my lips, Jiang Chen's expression shifted slightly, while Jiang Rong's face turned deathly pale in an instant. He stared at me blankly. Mother, why didn't you choose me? Seeing I ignored him, Jiang Rong stepped forward and grabbed the hem of my skirt. Mother, you should have chosen me. How dare you? The steward stepped forward, yanking Jiang Rong's hand off my skirt. Keep your filthy hands off the mistress's skirt. The lives of these illegitimate sons were far from easy. Their mothers were often of the lowest birth. And Jiang Feng was a father who only cared about procreation, not upbringing. Thus, within the manor, anyone dared to give them the cold shoulder. Even the steward had the audacity to harshly rebuke Jiang Rong. This would have been unthinkable in my previous life. Ever since I chose Jiang Rong, the steward greeted him with a beaming smile, addressing him as young master, never daring to show the slightest disrespect. At this moment, I calmly adjusted my hairpin, ignoring Jiang Rong's pleading gaze, and said indifferently, Chingur has lost both parents and has no one to rely on. Your mother is still alive. How could I take what belongs to another and separate you from your mother? Jiang Rong's mother, concubine Zhao, had once been a drum song performer in a theater. When Jiang Feng brought her back heavily pregnant, everyone in the mansion mocked her as unfit for respectable company. Now, Jiang Feng's favor had long shifted to younger, more beautiful concubines. Concubine Zhao and Jiang Rong lived in a remote courtyard, their lives bitter and wretched. After hearing my words, Jiang Rong's face paled. Moments later, he knelt before me with a thud. The First Lady is my legitimate mother. Please grant Ronger the chance to show filial devotion to her. Filial devotion? I sneered inwardly. Does that mean parading a courtesan before me to flaunt her beauty? Or forbidding any servant from bringing water or medicine to me when I lay ill? My dear Rong, the tale of Donghua and the wolf is best told just once. Jiang Rong crawled on his knees before me. My studies are the finest among all pupils. The master says I shall surely pass the imperial examinations. Mother, please don't abandon me. The other children, already displeased, dragged Jiang Rong away and began beating him. You brat! If you want to vie for favor, go ahead, but why step on us? So what if you study better? We'll show you who's boss. Don't you dare act like the heir of the Marquis's household. Ignoring Jiang Rong's whimpering pleas amidst the crowd, I beckoned Jiang Chen over. Come closer. Let me see. These clothes are in tatters. I have 3 bolts of fine fabric left from my maiden home. I'll have new garments made for you. In that instant, I saw Jiang Rong lift his head. He glared at Jiang Chen, his eyes brimming with intense jealousy. In my previous life, those 3 bolts of fabric naturally went to Jiang Rong. He was overjoyed, sweetly thanking me. Mother treats me so well. If only I could have a pair of fashionable boots to match. Generous as I was, I promptly purchased fine jade specifically to craft soles for his boots. Yet now, wearing the same exquisite fabric, Jiang Chen remained sullen, not uttering a single word of thanks. What's wrong? Don't they fit? I went to measure Jiang Chen's waist, but he dodged me, his face flushing slightly. Madam's materials are exquisite, but I'm unworthy of them, he murmured. I'm always getting into fights outside. No matter how fine the clothes, they'll be torn within 2 days. It would be a waste of Madam's kindness. With that, Jiang Chen started to pull his clothes down. I held him back. Hey, what are you doing? His face flushed deeper. the pale skin tinged with a hint of pink, making this rugged youth look almost endearing. If you know fighting is wrong, then stop. School is for learning. Why keep picking fights? He lowered his head, his voice muffled. I'm not very literate. I can't keep up with the teacher. It's fine. I'll teach you. Jiangchen turned to look at me, a flicker of disbelief in his eyes. I'll teach you, I repeated solemnly. But there's one condition, no more fighting with others. Understand? Jiangchen hesitated. But then, he nodded firmly, I promise. Madam. Teaching Jiangchen to read proved surprisingly straightforward. He was far more intelligent than I'd imagined, he'd simply lacked guidance before. I began instructing him at noon, continuing briefly after dinner each night. But after supper, Jiangchen would refuse to study further, assuming he was impatient and restless. I didn't press him and retired early. Yet one night, while rising to relieve myself, I discovered Jiangchen had relit his candle and was poring over his lessons by the window. The old steward told me, whenever the mistress retires, young Master Chen always gets up again to study. I was taken aback, he never mentioned this to me. The old steward smiled. Young Master Chen said the mistress is unwell and shouldn't be kept up late. My heart stirred, a warm current slowly rising within me. The next day, after Jiangchen left the academy, I intended to summon him to ask if he was keeping up with the master's recent lessons. But I couldn't find him anywhere. Only then did I recall that Jiangchen had been avoiding me these past days. When I went to see him, he would only respond to me through the door. It seemed he was deliberately avoiding me. Taking him by surprise, I went straight to his room. Caught off guard, a flicker of panic crossed his clear eyes. His first instinct was to turn his head away. But my sharp eyes had already spotted the bruised, purple marks on the left side of his face, the very part he tried to hide. What happened? Panic surged through me. I stepped forward, cupping Jiangchen's face. Did you get into another fight? Jiangchen lowered his eyelids, his lashes trembling slightly. After a long moment, his throat moved, and a low MHM escaped. Fury surged through me. Didn't you promise me you wouldn't fight anymore? Jiangchen kept his head bowed, his gaze dark. I was wrong. Please punish me, madam. I was furious. If you keep this up, I won't care about you anymore. I turned to storm out. But after a few steps, something felt off. Returning to Jiangchen, I demanded sternly, Jiangchen, tell me the truth. His eyes flinched before he lowered his head. This is the truth. No. That can't be right. I shook my head. With your skills, no one could beat you up like this. In my past life, I witnessed Jiangchen's prowess. When Jiang Rong led a mob to beat him, he single-handedly fought 10 men. His flowing whip technique, learned from the old soldiers in the mansion, was executed with such grace and power that no one could come near him. There's only one way you could be injured like this. I fixed my gaze on Jiangchen. Someone attacked you, and you didn't fight back at all. I cupped his face, forcing him to lift his head. When Jiangchen met my gaze, I suddenly noticed his eyes were red. I promised the mistress I wouldn't fight, he said, his voice sounding slightly hoarse. My heart jolted. To keep that promise, Jiangchen hadn't struck back even once when others beat him. Who hit you? I demanded coldly. Jiangchen remained silent. Why didn't you tell me? I'm your mother. Jiangchen suddenly roared, No. You're not. His shout made my temples throb. I staggered, and Jiangchen panicked, rushing to steady me, madam. His touch felt like an electric shock coursing through my mind. It was Ronga who hit you, right? I said coldly. The next day, I took Jiangchen to the clinic and went to the academy myself. The moment Jiang Rong saw me, he rushed forward, his face lit with surprise. "Madam, would you like some water?" "I'll fetch it." My expression remained impassive as I asked flatly, "Have you been fighting lately?" Jiang Rong froze, the smile fading from his face. But he must have prepared his defense in advance, for he immediately declared loudly, "Jiang Chen cheated during the exam. His conduct is disgraceful, bringing shame upon our home mansion. I couldn't stand by and watch, so I gathered some men to teach him a lesson." I raised an eyebrow. "Did you personally witness him cheating?" Jiang Rong declared with righteous indignation. "Of course. If you don't believe me, madam, go ask the teacher." I said nothing and turned to leave. Jiang Rong, thinking he'd convinced me, called after me, "Madam, after confirming with the teacher, shouldn't you reward Ronger?" A cold smile touched my lips as I murmured, "Naturally." As Jiang Rong suggested, I went to see the schoolmaster. The white-bearded scholar declared sternly, "Jiang Chen did indeed attempt to peek at others' papers during the exam." I smiled and cut him off. "How much silver did young Master Rong give you?" The scholar froze, his mouth agape. In my past life, every servant around me spoke highly of Jiang Rong, leading me to genuinely believe he was a boy of pure virtue. Only later did I learn these servants had all taken silver from Jiang Rong, thoroughly bribed by him. I slipped off the gold bracelet from my wrist and slammed it onto the table. "Master, teaching and nurturing students is truly arduous work. This is a small token of my appreciation, though it may seem inadequate." The master picked up the bracelet, gave it a little flick, and beamed. "Madam is truly generous. If you have any requests, just tell me." I smiled. "I have no special requests. Really. I just want to know the truth about the school." I emphasized the word truth. This white-bearded old man was no fool, he understood perfectly well. He accepted the bracelet and spoke frankly. Jiang Chen did glance at others during the exam, but only briefly, probably to see how far they'd progressed. He didn't stare for long. In other words, Jiang Chen hadn't cheated. His progress was earned through genuine study. It was Jiang Rong, however, whose writing style had undergone a sudden, drastic change recently, showing progress that seemed almost impossible. An inexplicable sense of foreboding rose within him. "May I see Jiang Rong's exam paper?" The teacher brought over Jiang Rong's paper. I glanced at it, and a chill ran through my entire body. Jiang Rong's essay was identical to one written by a certain Su-surnamed candidate in my previous life. But the problem was, according to this timeline, the Su candidate wouldn't write this essay until the palace examination 3 years hence. My hands trembled, barely holding the paper steady. There was only one possibility. Jiang Rong had also been reborn. Realizing this, I felt as if I'd fallen into an ice cave. In my previous life, Jiang Rong was already smooth-talking yet ruthless, with a deeply calculating mind. Now, armed with the experience and memories of his past life, he would be even more formidable than before. The only silver lining was that he currently couldn't confirm I had also been reborn. If he could, he would know there was no room for reconciliation between us, and he wouldn't keep coming before me to vie for favor. With this clarity, I sent some silver to the tutor as hush money before returning to my courtyard, only to find Jiang Rong waiting outside. "Madam, was what I said true?" He flashed a smile at me, revealing 2 deep dimples. "Shouldn't you reward me?" I smiled slowly. "Of course you should be rewarded." I summoned my personal maid to fetch patterned silver coins and presented them to Jiang Rong. Jiang Rong stared at the silver, his disappointment palpable. "I don't want silver. I only wish to be taught personally by you, madam, just like Chen Guer." I didn't respond to his request, only said, "The tutor showed me your essay." I clearly saw a sharp shift in the depths of Jiang Rong's eyes. He asked me, "Madam, What do you think of my writing? This was a test. My refusal to adopt him in this lifetime had already aroused his suspicion. He was probing whether I, too, had been reborn. Brilliantly written. Truly astonishing. I praised sincerely. It's hard to imagine such mature prose coming from a 12-year-old boy. Jiang Rong smiled, his shoulders and neck relaxing. He had finally confirmed I was not reborn. Then, Madam, could you also accompany me in my studies? I shook my head. Your studies are already excellent. Reading more now won't improve much. You'd be better off going out to play and explore. Once you enter the court, start a family, and build your career, you'll never have such carefree days again. Smiling, I took the patterned silver from the maid's hand and pressed it into Jiang Rong's palm. Go play. If you run out of silver, just tell me, and I'll give you more. Jiang Rong blinked, clearly tempted. Turning away, I sneered inwardly. I knew Jiang Rong's temperament all too well. He was wildly playful, unable to sit still during lessons. Only when I personally supervised his studies could he avoid daydreaming. Now that he fancies himself with a reincarnation cheat code, handling these basic lessons as child's play, he'll never study seriously. My dear Rong, didn't you think my pushing you to improve was ruining you in your past life? Then go play. Play hard. Academics are like rowing against the current. If you don't advance, you fall behind. By the time you regret it, it'll be too late. Of course, Jiang Rong is no pushover. To make him completely lower his guard around me, that very night I dealt a severe punishment to Jiang Chen for cheating. The crack of the whip echoed through the room, loud enough for the entire courtyard to hear. You dare cheat? I'll make you pay. One more time, and I'll send you to the northern desert as a soldier. Inside the room, Jiang Chen watched me whip the pillow and whispered, My lady, your hand must hurt. Shall I take over? My hand did ache, so I handed the whip to Jiang Chen. He continued lashing the pillow while pleading loudly, My lady, I'm innocent. Truly innocent. Then, in a voice twisted by forced confession, he wailed, I'll never dare again. Please spare me this once. Madam. This lad, usually quiet as a mouse, turns out to be quite the actor. After putting on a proper show, Jiang Chen and I shared some pastries. Was Madam putting on a show for Jiang Rong? Not just him, it's for all the other Jiang heirs too. I nibbled on a date paste pastry as I remarked casually. After all, you're not the Marquis's biological son. Now that you've suddenly gained influence, the other heirs are bound to envy you. Even if it's not Jiang Rong, others will try to trip you up later. So, it's better to make them think being adopted by me isn't such a great deal. We'll quietly amass our wealth. Jiang Chen's eyes flickered. Noticing he hadn't touched his food, I nudged the plate of pastries toward him. Eat up. He frowned. I don't care for sweets. Oh, I said. Well, I can't finish this all by myself. Why not take it to share with the maids and servants? Jiang Chen nodded and carried the plate out. En route, he encountered a servant who exclaimed, Why? Isn't this the date paste pastry the lady herself cooked? What? Are you sharing it with us? Jiang Chen remained silent, then declared with certainty, No. The mistress told me to take it back for us to eat. With that, he carried the plate away, leaving the servant with an inscrutable back view. After news of my whipping Jiang Chen spread throughout the Marquis's mansion, Jiang Rong grew even more arrogant. He ran rampant in the academy, even when he skipped classes. The master paid him no mind. Thus, Jiang Rong's suppressed playfulness from his past life was greatly unleashed. He befriended a gang of rowdy companions, frequenting opera houses and drinking with courtesans. Everyone said his debauched ways were a perfect inheritance from his father, Jiang Feng. When the news reached me, I smiled faintly and defended Jiang Rong, young Master Rong is clever. Even without studying, he'd still be top of the class. Better to let him enjoy himself. Then I turned back to continue teaching Jiangchen his lessons diligently. Half a month later, upon returning to the courtyard, I found him standing there with a young girl. The girl was about 13 or 14, standing with her hands hanging limply at her sides. She was quite pretty, though. "Madam, I noticed you were short-handed in your quarters. I happened to meet this maid selling herself to bury her father on the road. I used the silver you gave me to buy her," Jiang Rong said ingratiatingly. "First, it counts as a good deed. Second, she's clever and will surely serve you well." The maid was indeed quick-witted. Hearing this, she immediately chimed in, "This servant is Yueme. In life, I am the mistress's person; in death, I am the mistress's ghost." Yueme. My fingernails dug imperceptibly into my palm. I glanced coldly at her, with her oval face and almond-shaped eyes. Who else could she be but the courtesan who had once flaunted her power before me in my previous life? Only now, she hadn't yet developed her alluring charm, she was still just a young girl. I understood. What selling herself to bury her father? It was nothing but a well-crafted, pleasing story. Yume was bought out of the brothel by Jiang Rong. Yume was sold into the brothel at 13 and became the courtesan queen at 16. Her current value wasn't high, buying her freedom wouldn't cost much silver. So Jiang Rong redeemed her early, first. To save money compared to waiting, second. To spend time with her in the mansion sooner, third. To plant a spy close to me. Killing multiple birds with one stone, Jiang Rong is truly formidable. Back in the day, I taught him the 36 stratagems. Now he plays hide the sky and deceive the sea. So I'll play turn the tables. So, smiling gently, I stroked Yueme's hand. "You are indeed a clever girl. Since that is the case, you shall remain by my side." 8. Yueme served me for 3 months, constantly singing Jiang Rong's praises. For instance, when we went to the academy, she would say, "Young Master Rong excels in his studies. His essays are always praised by the master. Scholars outside the academy consider it an honor to exchange poetry with him. He is truly a prodigy." I sneered inwardly. Of course he's exceptionally talented. After all, those essays and poems he writes aren't his own. The real author will only sigh later, wondering how his inspiration was already written by someone else years ago. Passing by the small kitchen, Yueme would also say, "Last time the young masters went hunting together, Brother Rong brought back large chunks of venison. He specially sent it to the small kitchen, asking them to cook it all for the mistress. He's truly extremely filial." I sneered again. Jiang Rong did indeed send me roasted venison, but my constitution was too weak to handle such fiercely grilled meat. Jiang Qin, on the other hand, would always prepare a bowl of plain congee for me before heading to the academy each morning. He'd add various medicinal herbs to it, formulas he'd painstakingly researched from medical texts. Who was sincere? It was plain as day. You may still try to speak for Jiang Rong, I just thought. Seeing only young Master Chen here might be lonely. Perhaps the madam could also take in young Master Rong. Excellent. The real topic was finally emerging. I cut her off immediately, teasing with a smile, "What? Do you fancy Jiang Rong? Why else would you mention him in every third sentence? Shall I transfer you to serve him instead?" You may flinched, scrambling to cover. "How could that be? My heart belongs entirely to you, madam." But still, when I sold myself to bury my father, it was young Master Jiang Rong who saved me. He saved my life. Naturally, I pay him more attention. You don't like Jiang Rong? How could I have such distractions when my sole devotion is serving you, madam? Yu Mei's expression was one of righteous integrity. But in truth, I already knew. I have spies planted around Jiang Rong too. They report that he and Yu Mei meet secretly and often. Jiang Rong even promised Yu Mei that once he becomes the legitimate heir of the Marquis' household, he'll take her as his concubine. Later, he'll find an opportunity to make her his formal wife, elevating her to mistress of the Marquis' estate. This pie in the sky he's painting, isn't it exactly the same as in my past life? No wonder Yu Mei was tempted. Even if Jiang Rong hadn't been adopted by me, he was still the Yongning Marquis' biological son. For Yu Mei to marry him, whether as a primary wife or a concubine, would truly be like a phoenix rising to perch on a branch. All right. I know your loyalty. I instructed Yu Mei to check if my medicine was ready. Yu Mei responded and headed toward the outer room, only to collide with Jiang Chen entering from the inner chamber. Jiang Chen was carrying my medicine. Seeing Yu Mei nearly bump into him, he swiftly sidestepped. Yu Mei looked up. Jiang Chen wore white robes, his jet black hair held back by a jade crown. His features were sharp and cool. These half-grown youths matured faster than the wind. In less than half a year, most of Jiang Chen's childish features had faded. His shoulders were broad and straight, his jawline sharp with the definition of a young man. Yu Mei's face flushed crimson. She hurried out, forgetting even to bow in greeting. I smiled and beckoned to Jiang Chen, "Come here. Let me take a look." He approached, puzzled. I touched his cheek. "Our Chinji has grown into someone girls would like." Jiang Chen's face flushed, and he pulled away from my hand. I watched as even his earlobes turned pink. I froze. I've never been a mother myself. Just mimicking others' ways. Copying what I've seen. But Jiang Chen is only a few years younger than me. Before, he hadn't fully matured yet and still looked like a child. I comfortably slipped into the mother-son dynamic. And when he avoided me, I simply thought he was being shy like a little kid. Now that he'd grown taller, he looked more like my peer. When he acted shy, it made me feel awkward too. Being a mother is hard, but being a stepmother is even harder. I silently sighed as I took the bitter medicine from Jiang Chen's hand. By autumn, Jiang Feng had returned. He'd been dispatched by the emperor to oversee water conservancy projects in the south. Jiangnan, a land of indulgence, had drawn him into a circle of girls speaking the soft Wu dialect. Now, having finally dragged his feet through the imperial assignment, he remembered this godforsaken marquis mansion in the capital. I led the welcoming party at the gate. Jiang Feng stepped down from the sedan chair, his belly protruding, his face hollowed by wine and women. "My lady, how have you been?" Then he patted Jiang Chen. Standing beside me, young Master Rong has grown so tall. Such dashing good looks, he has my youthful charm. Jiang Chen murmured softly, "Your lordship." "I am Jiang Chen." A flicker of awkwardness crossed Jiang Feng's face. But before it lingered, Jiang Rong pushed through the crowd, warmly supporting him. "Father, you're finally back. Ronger has missed you so much." Jiang Feng couldn't tell his several illegitimate sons apart. But if forced to choose a favorite, it would naturally be the clever, sweet-talking Jiang Rong. Watching Jiang Feng and Jiang Rong engage in warm greetings, I stood by, too indifferent to join in. Jiang Feng and I were a marriage of convenience. On our wedding night, he took a sip of wine and left. We never consummated the union. I found him too old and his body repulsive, refusing to touch him. He dared not provoke me. And besides, he had more charming and attentive concubines. Thus, he wisely kept his distance. Both of us understood this was merely a marriage of appearances. A marriage of convenience. And we were quite content with that. That evening, Jiang Feng sipped tea with me and gestured toward Jiang Chen. At Chen's age, he could take a couple of maidservants as concubines to gain experience. Such was the custom at the Yongning Marquis' residence. Before a young master married, he could take maidservants as concubines. Before he could finish, Jiang Chen knelt. "Son wishes no concubines. I desire only to serve the lady." Jiang Feng startled at this. But he couldn't be bothered with such matters. Jiang Chen wasn't his son anyway. He turned to Jiang Rong. Rong is nearly 15 now. Isn't he? When I was 15, your mother was already pregnant with you. I rolled my eyes inwardly. That old philanderer returns home without inquiring about the children's studies, yet rushes to teach matters of the heart. Truly his style. Thankfully, Archin didn't heed him. Jiang Rong adopted an obedient expression. Since father has spoken, this son will bear it in mind. As the old saying goes, establish a family before building a career. With a devoted companion by my side, I believe I can focus more intently on my studies. Jiang Feng laughed heartily with satisfaction. Truly my son. I clearly saw the joy light up Yumei's face beside me. Jiang Feng had instructed Jiang Rong to take a maid as a concubine, and her chance had finally arrived. I clearly saw Jiang Rong give Yumei a knowing glance, signaling her to be at ease. Very good. Though Jiang Feng was a useless head of the household, in truth, all of us had been waiting for him to return. Jiang Rong had completed his performance. Now it was my turn. I suddenly raised my voice to ask Yumei beside me, how old are you now? Yumei? Caught off guard by the question, Yumei looked startled. But she quickly brightened, realizing my timing meant I intended to propose her as Jiang Rong's concubine. Excitedly, she replied, 15. I nodded. I married into the Marquis's household at 17, which was already considered late. Yumei flattered. Madam is so young yet possesses such maturity. You manage the entire household so well, how could I ever compare? I smiled, pointing at Yumei. Look at her, look at this girl. Not only is her beauty first-rate, but she's also so sensible and well-behaved. Then, I walked gracefully to Jiang Feng, handed him the tea in my hand, and lowered my eyes, speaking with sorrow. My body is weak. I cannot serve my husband and fulfill my duties as a wife. I have always blamed myself for this. But now that I have Yumei, with her exquisite beauty and gentle demeanor, I hope she may serve you in my stead. Perhaps then my guilt might ease somewhat. Jiang Feng had already noticed Yumei and had even discreetly asked me when such a lovely maid had joined my service. Now that I've offered to make her my concubine, he's naturally overjoyed. My lady is so virtuous. With such a virtuous wife and beautiful concubine, what more could I ask for? Jiang Rong and Yumei's faces instantly drained of color. Yumei knelt with a clatter, your lordship. Madam. Actually I cut her off and declared loudly to Jiang Feng, truthfully. This girl was rescued by Jiang Rong and brought to the manor. At first, I wondered if there might be something between them. But after questioning Yumei, she assured me she only feels gratitude toward Brother Rong. Nothing romantic. That's when I felt at ease. Then, I turned to Yumei with a smile, isn't that right? Yumei's lips trembled, unable to utter a single word. Moments later, she looked imploringly at Jiang Rong. Jiang Rong averted his gaze, refusing to meet her eyes. Yumei's face grew even paler. Standing nearby, I felt only cold laughter and satisfaction. In my past life, when Jiang Rong held Yumei's hand and declared he would make her the mistress of the Marquis's mansion, I believed there was some profound, ocean-deep affection between them. Now I see it was nothing more than that. Jiang Rong dared not defy Jiang Feng for Yumei's sake. This lifetime, without my backing, he couldn't afford to lose his father's favor. And so, Jiang Rong watched helplessly as Jiang Feng took Yumei. Becoming Jiang Feng's concubine never ended well. This marquis was brutal and violent in the bedroom, and heartless and unfeeling outside it. Thus, none of Jiang Feng's concubines lived happily. They either died young or grew white hair before 30. Jiang Rong knew this better than anyone, for he himself was the son of one of Jiang Feng's concubines. The woman he cherished had now taken her own life. Yet in mere moments, he composed himself. Congratulations. Father. On gaining such a lovely bride. Jiang Rong smiled, appearing genuinely pleased for his father. Coincidentally, the son had prepared a gift long ago, now presenting it to his father during this joyous occasion. Watching Jiang Rong, I felt a dread I'd never known before. After his rebirth, this boy's thoughts had grown even more profound. His true intentions remained utterly inscrutable beneath the surface. Jiang Rong presented his father with a jade statue of Guanyin. Jiang Feng cherished jade carvings above all else. So this gift struck a chord with him. Fueled by wine, father and son chatted for a while before Jiang Feng turned his gaze toward me, seated not far away. I knew immediately trouble was brewing. Madam. Sure enough, Jiang Feng called me. I stepped forward. What are your instructions? My lord? How could I dare give instructions to the lady? It's merely a small matter to discuss with you. Young Master Rong will be of marriageable age in a couple of years. Why not take him under your name? That way, he can marry more easily. In this regard, Jiang Feng's mind was quite clear. Whether legitimate or illegitimate was secondary. The crucial point was that within this marquisate, my status held greater value than his. As Jiang Rong, the illegitimate son of the Marquis of Yongning, his options were limited: either marry the illegitimate daughter of a noble house or the daughter of a lesser family. But as my son, the grandson of the Protector General and the Grand Princess, he could practically choose any maiden in the capital. I looked at Jiang Rong. He gazed at me obediently and quietly, a smile with deep dimples spreading across his face. I shifted my gaze and said flatly, I already have Chinguer. Jiang Feng chuckled. One more wouldn't hurt. They're both grown now, you don't need to worry about them. I shook my head again. Jiang Rong's mother, Consort Zhao, is still alive. How could I possibly take another man's child? Jiang Feng was persuaded by my words and conceded. You're right. Beside us. Jiang Rong's face, which had been filled with boundless hope, suddenly turned ashen. Unmistakable disappointment welled in his eyes. He had pinned his hopes on his father persuading me. But he hadn't anticipated that after I mentioned Consort Zhao, Jiang Feng would agree so readily. As I turned to leave, Jiang Rong grabbed my sleeve. Jiang Qin, standing beside me, immediately shoved him away and stepped in front of me. Jiang Rong shot Jiang Qin a venomous glance before withdrawing his gaze. He turned to me with a pitiful expression. Madam, my birth mother never treated me well. I've never known a single day of warmth. I beg you to take pity on me. I lowered my eyes and replied calmly. Ronga, no matter what, she is still your mother. I only want Madam to be my mother. I paid him no further attention and turned to leave with Jiang Qin. I thought the matter was settled. Yet 3 days later, news arrived, neither major nor minor. Concubine Zhao had hanged herself. It wasn't major because Jiang Feng kept many concubines, and deaths were common. He paid little heed, merely instructing servants to bury her according to protocol. It was significant because Jiang Qin went to the mortuary. As the mistress suspected, the rope marks on concubine Zhao's neck were suspicious. Jiang Qin whispered, I traced the shape, it doesn't match how a noose would leave marks. I sucked in a sharp breath, nearly losing my footing. On the day of the funeral, heavy rain poured down. Jiang Rong, clad in mourning robes, knelt in the downpour. The moment he saw me approach, he threw himself at me, sobbing. Jiang Qin pulled him away with a cold expression. Jiang Rong stumbled backward, still weeping as he clutched the hem of my skirt. Madam, I have no mother anymore. His weeping was truly pitiable. His fair face, with rosy lips and white teeth, was streaked with tears. Everyone around him felt pity. Jiang Feng, standing nearby, was also moved. He sighed. Madam, please take Ronger in. He is truly pitiful. I remained silent. Then I said, Very well. I had never seen Jiang Rong look so overjoyed. He rose and embraced me tightly. Mother. I will serve you faithfully. His grip on my hand felt soft. Yet to me, it was like being licked by a cold, slimy snake's tongue. This wolf I had raised in my past life, he was truly ruthless. So ruthless that for this life's glory, he dared eliminate even his own birth mother. But this was not the last cruel act Jiang Rong would commit. In June, my mother sent word that the emperor was seeking a companion for the crown prince and she could recommend a young man. Clearly, the choice would come down to either Jiang Rong or Jiang Chen. By this time, Jiang Rong's reputation had already soured considerably. I had previously encouraged him to run wild outside the estate, never calling him to apologize when trouble arose, only giving him silver to smooth things over himself. Over time, it became common knowledge that the Marquis' son, Rong, was a profligate. Earlier, Jiang Rong had indeed enjoyed considerable prestige by passing off others' writings as his own. But he overlooked one crucial fact: those works were finite. His own studies had long been neglected, leaving him incapable of producing anything new. Gradually, his well of talent ran dry. It seemed the role of the Crown Prince's companion reader was inevitably destined for Jiang Chen. I simply hadn't anticipated how unwilling Jiang Rong would be to accept this. So unwilling that he drugged Jiang Chen. I received the intelligence from my informant suddenly that afternoon. The young servant rushed over, telling me, young Master Rong went to find young Master Chen, saying the mistress fainted and asking young Master Chen to come quickly. Young Master Chen grew anxious upon hearing this and had already followed young Master Rong. I immediately sensed something was amiss. Which direction did they go? It seemed like the master's bedroom. My head spun. Jiang Feng had gone to court, but he should be on his way back by now. I couldn't think of anything else. Taking several trusted servants with me, I rushed straight to Jiang Feng's bedroom. I tugged at the door. A heavy copper lock secured it tightly from the outside. There was no time to hesitate. I ordered my trusted servant beside me, "Get the axe." "Madam, listen to me. Break it down." The axe was brought. The carved wooden door was split open. I charged in, and a figure lunged at me. "Madam." It was Jiang Chen. Not far away, on the bed. You may lay unconscious, clearly drugged beforehand. I looked down at Jiang Chen again. His face was flushed, his entire body drenched in sweat. Yet his clothes remained neatly in place. Faced with this scene, how could I not understand Jiang Rong's scheme? "Auntie Yu is unwell. You girls take good care of her," I instructed my trusted maidservants. Then, I helped Jiang Chen up. "Brother Chen, come with me." The walk back to my chambers was long, but Jiang Chen forced himself to stand tall the entire way, striving to conceal his condition. Only upon reaching my room did he collapse stiffly. As I went to support him, I realized his entire body was drenched in sweat. His clothes clung wetly to his skin, making him look as if he'd just been pulled from the water. "Jiang Chen, Jiang Chen." I called his name. His eyelids wouldn't open. His lips moved. And after a long moment, he managed only one sentence. "Go out. Don't worry about me." Under the aphrodisiac's influence, every word he uttered felt scorching. "I'm fine. Don't worry." But how could he possibly be fine? After saying that, Jiang Chen passed out. The aphrodisiac's effect started as heat, then turned into a pain that felt like his insides were burning. Jiang Chen had fainted from the agony. Even so, he endured it. I stepped out of the room, my whole body trembling uncontrollably. I walked to the Buddhist altar and lit a stick of incense. My mother was devout, and from childhood, I too believed in karma. Originally, I had refused to let my own hands be stained with blood before Jiang Chen achieved his military honors. But at this moment, I made up my mind. Jiang Rong had injured the person I protected so severely. I could not let him live. I went to see Yu Mei. When she awoke, she clutched her head in a splitting headache. Then, as if remembering something, she nearly jumped up in terror. Calm down. I sat at her bedside, holding a cup of hot tea. The Marquis hasn't returned. My men intercepted him on the road and lured him into drinking and carousing. You may relax slightly. I said coldly. I've sealed off the news for now. But if you don't tell me the truth, no one can save your life. You May stammered. I was taken to the master's room. I drank a cup of hot tea from the table. And then I don't remember anything. I took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. You May. The poison was administered by Jiang Rong. You May stared at me, her eyes wide. He lured you there first. Drugged you unconscious. Then tricked Jiang Chen inside before locking the door. There was a small hole in the window paper. That's where Jiang Rong blew the aphrodisiac incense into the room. What he wanted to happen between you and Jiang Chen? I don't need to spell it out. Do I? You May froze for a moment. Then began to tremble violently. Impossible. Impossible. She murmured. Ronglong wouldn't do this to me. I'm his favorite. Is that so? Then let me share another secret. I leaned closer to Yume and whispered. The marks on concubine Zhao's neck weren't from hanging herself. Yume's pupils dilated sharply. He could even harm his own birth mother. Do you really think he'd show you mercy? Oh. And Jiang Rong's been trying to marry the third young miss of the Earl's household lately. He went to such lengths to transfer the estate to my name just to secure a wife from a prestigious family. I said no more to Yume. Let her taste it herself. Taste what her beloved has truly been all along. Of course. I left Yume a parting gift. A packet of medicinal powder lay beside her hand. Whether she used it or not was entirely up to her. I paid a hefty sum to bury that day's events. All the servants were sworn to silence. No one dared defy me to curry favor with Jiang Feng, for he was visibly hollowed out by drink and women lately. He likely wouldn't live much longer. Once he died, this marquisate would be entirely mine to command. Whether Jiang Feng sensed his declining health or not, he grew increasingly desperate to prove himself. When he failed, his shame turned to rage, and he took it out on others. Yume was often covered in bruises. Tormented yet unable to escape, she once invited Jiang Rong for a drink. After he left, Yume ended her hopeless life with a white silk cord. Jiang Rong was initially overjoyed. He rejoiced that Yume was finally dead. For now the many dirty deeds he had committed would never be exposed. Yet, the very next day after her death, Jiang Rong began coughing up blood. Yume had laced the wine with the powdered medicine I had given her. Within 3 days, Jiang Rong would bleed to death. As he lay dying, I lit a stick of incense before the Buddha. Jiang Rong died by Yume's hand. I had nothing to do with it. But if retribution must be meted out, let it fall upon me alone. Do not let the cycle of cause and effect drag down those close to me, like Jiangchen. After lighting the incense, I went to see Jiang Rong. He lay in bed, barely clinging to life. This scene, how much it resembled my past life with him. Only now, the roles had reversed. He gasped painfully, his face ashen, eyes fixed on me without blinking. Wife. I refused to accept this. I dodged his outstretched hand and sighed. That poisonous woman, Yume, actually dared to drag me down to hell with her. His mouth gaped open, blood gushing from it. I should have been the legitimate heir of the Marquis's mansion. This entire estate should have been mine. Madam, save me. When I was sick as a child, you always had a way. Jiang Rong was confused. He was mixing up his past life with this one. I smiled, Brother Rong. That was a past life. So it happened in a past life? Jiang Rong nodded. The next moment, his eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at me. Jiang Rong gasped for breath. You're also. Yes. My dear brother Rong. I nodded gently. I too had been reborn. Jiang Rong stared at me, his eyes bulging as he gasped for air like a fish out of water. Finally, more blood gushed from his mouth. And so, consumed by endless agony and resentment, he drew his last breath. Jiang Chen approached me and whispered, "Madam, if he were to be reborn again, what would you do?" I shook my head calmly. It doesn't matter. Aren't we all reborn? We'll face whatever comes our way. Yes. Jiang Chen was also reborn. As long as I retained my past memories in the next life, I would never fear him again. Jiang Chen smiled to himself. What are you laughing at? The thought of meeting you again in the next life, or perhaps many lives hence, in different guises, brings me joy. I glared at him. What about this life? Snow fell. Jiang Chen draped a cloak over my shoulders. I clasped his arm as we walked slowly home. 3 months later, Jiang Chen passed the imperial examinations with distinction, becoming the crown prince's tutor. A year later, Jiang Feng died of a sudden illness. The master of this marquis's mansion finally and completely became mine. On another snowy day, I encountered a passing, handsome youth who called himself a soul-chasing man named Ji Zhao. Ji Zhao told me, a certain soul who shared a past life with the lady will not be reborn again. I felt a sigh of relief in my heart, yet still asked him, why? Every soul is brought into this world by its mother. By killing his own birth mother, Jiang Rong severed his connection to this world, thus, he could not return. So that was it. Karma had finally caught up with him. The snow fell heavier and heavier. I prepared clear congee and simple side dishes, waiting for Jiang Chen to return for dinner. This life still held many years ahead, and there were still many things worth looking forward to. The end.